Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us live today as we discuss Delaware EARNS. So this statewide program, sponsored by the Office of the State Treasurer, will allow employers to offer their workers retirement accounts at no cost to the employers. Today, Ted Griffith, the program's director, will be discussing the rollout of this Delaware EARNS program and answer your questions live. My name is Elise Portolato. I'm the Director of Economic Development and Business Incubation for the Newcastle County Chamber of Commerce. And we welcome you here today to discuss this new program. We do ask that if you are interested in having a question throughout the program to please use the chat feature. You will remain muted throughout the entire program. So please use the chat feature to ask a question and or raise your hand so we can get to you during the live Q&A at the end. So with that, thank you so much, Ted, for being here.
Good morning, everyone. As Elise mentioned, my name is Ted Griffith, the program director for Delaware EARNS. And as was mentioned, Delaware EARNS is going to be a new retirement savings program. It's sponsored by our office, by the Office of the State Treasurer, for private sector workers who lack access to savings at work. And I want to thank Elise and Yvonne and the entire team at Newcastle County Chamber of Commerce, as well as everyone listening for taking the time to learn about this important program. Delaware EARNS is really about improving the quality of life here for our workers. And we're doing that by providing a vitally important benefit. And that vitally important benefit is the ability to save for retirement, to save for a more secure future. Very importantly, Delaware EARNS also will ensure that our employers are staying competitive with the surrounding states. Already, Maryland and Virginia have their version of Delaware EARNS up and running. New Jersey is planning to launch its program in the summer. So it's important that our employers stay competitive by being able to offer this benefit. And so just want to take a moment to talk about why we need a private sector retirement savings program facilitated by the Office of the State Treasurer. And as I'm sure most of you are aware, when it comes to retirement savings, we are facing a crisis. And it's not just an issue here for us in Delaware, but this is a national issue. Many surveys that I've seen show that more than 70% of workers fear that they don't have enough saved for retirement. And there are many factors that go into creating this problem. One of the issues is Social Security itself is really not going to be enough on its own, generally speaking, to sustain someone's lifestyle. Some of the statistics that I've seen around Social Security is the average Social Security payment in retirement is about half the single median wage for the single earner here in Delaware. So you can't rely solely on Social Security. And another big part of the problem is that many workers, as you see here, nearly 40% of Delaware's workforce don't have access to a plan at work. So they're not making those regular contributions that over time make such a difference. And in and of themselves, those regular contributions aren't that much of a burden. So it's very easy to do. But if you don't have that plan at work and you're not steadily contributing to a 401k or a 403b or a simple IRA, what have you, the likelihood is you're not going to save anything for retirement. So that's the problem that we're facing. And we see Delaware EARNS as certainly not the only solution, but part of the solution to this problem, to this retirement crisis that we're facing. And so what is Delaware EARNS? Again, it's going to be a new state-facilitated retirement savings plan for private sector workers who don't have access to a workplace retirement savings plan. That's what the program really is all about. And we see three key benefits flowing from this program. Obviously, this is going to, if we can get people signed up for this and supporting this, it's going to mean much more secure, empowered financial future for people who are working their entire lives when they get to retirement. Secondly, and this is very important from the employer standpoint, is it allows employers to offer a competitive benefit, and no retirement benefits help with attraction and retention of employees, to offer this competitive benefit at no cost to the employer. There is no charge to employers that are participating in the EARNS program. And then big picture, if we can make this program successful, if you'll work with me in getting people involved with this and saving for a better future, we can save the state over a long period of time, millions, even billions of dollars. And that makes sense if you think about it, because if we have workers going into retirement with healthy nest eggs, they're going to be much less reliant on government services and the taxpayer dollars that support them. Today, I do want to delve into Delaware EARNS from kind of the two standpoints, one of which is the employers and the other is the employees. In other words, the employer who's kind of a conduit for this program, facilitating it, registering for the program, and then the employees who are actually saving their money in the IRA accounts. It's important to understand for employers, there is a specific set of employers here in Delaware that will be required later this year, in the second half of this year, to facilitate Delaware EARNS. And the employers who are required to participate are those with 5 or more W-2 employees. They've been in business 6 months, and they don't offer a qualified retirement plan. So if you're an employer, nonprofit, or for-profit, and you fall into that category, you check all 3 of those boxes, then you will be required to facilitate Delaware EARNS. But again, no charge or cost to you as the employer. On the employee side, participation is voluntary, just over 18 as you would expect, but on the employee side, it's entirely a voluntary system. Now, we often get questions from employers, well, what constitutes a qualified retirement plan that would exempt me from the EARNS requirement? And it's the ones that you would expect. And you see them listed here, of course, your 401ks, but also your simple IRAs, if you're a nonprofit, the 403B plans, really the wide range of them here. You can see all of them here. So it may be that if you already have a qualified retirement plan in place, that is great. And we absolutely don't want you to get rid of that. This program, really the overarching goal of Delaware EARNS is to encourage employers to make this option available to their employees, either through Delaware EARNS or through one of these. They're great ways to provide opportunity to save for retirement. So if you have it, please keep it and maintain it. I want to spend another moment on 3 key aspects of the Delaware EARNS program. I mentioned that for employees, participation is entirely voluntary, and that's absolutely true. They can opt out at any time. They can opt back in after they've opted out. But another point to be aware of is that for the employees, they will be automatically enrolled in the program and set up to start making regular contributions kind of by default. In other words, it's an opt-out program. The employees get enrolled into it. They can opt out at any time if they wish, but it's designed to just give people a nudge to start saving for retirement. Research has shown time and time again, the more sort of decisions or steps that a saver has to take, the less the likelihood that that person is actually going to start saving for retirement. It's not, we acknowledge it's not necessarily an exciting topic. So it's designed to kind of nudge people into the program But the employees, again, it's voluntary. If they don't want to participate, or we recognize there's some in a position where they just can't even say 5%. That's completely fine. But we do want to see more employees doing this to avoid trouble down the road. A second key thing to understand about Delaware EARNS is we are working with a top-notch private company to implement this here in Delaware. So I mentioned that some of the surrounding states, Maryland and Virginia, already have this program. In total, there are 8 states that have been up and running, in some cases for a good number of years, with these types of programs. They're known as automatic IRAs or auto IRAs. So there's 8 altogether currently up and running. The company we're working with, it's a company called Vestwell. They are the program administrator for 6 out of those 8. So they've really led in this area, and they have the technology, the call center support. So we feel very good about the public-private partnership. And again, a third point that I do want to remind folks of is, for the employers, there's no cost to participate. To my knowledge, there isn't any other retirement plan like that. Typically, as you know, an employer has to pay something to have a 401k or a retirement. Treasurer Davis is committed to, and has been for several years, committed to bringing this program to Delaware. But she recognized that there are hurdles for especially the smaller employers, the small businesses, the small nonprofits. Probably 3 big hurdles that stand in the way of offering a retirement plan. What we're doing with Delaware EARNS is designed to sweep away those hurdles. So there's really very minimal administrative burden. There's no in some cases you have to, with a retirement plan, you have to file tax forms of 5,500. That is not on the employer here. Again, there's no fees for the employer. And we recognize too that one of the things that can be challenging as an employer is you have employee turnover, and then you have these kind of leftover accounts in the 401k, and what are you doing with those? Again, that's not going to be your responsibility. The program is built on the Roth IRA, which you're probably familiar with. And those, of course, are very portable, widely available. So they'll just follow the employee throughout their working lives. So again, just trying to remove some of those barriers that up until now have inhibited access to retirement savings programs. I'm sure you're curious about the timeline for all this. 2024 is a major year for Delaware EARNS, including just at the end of this week, March 1st, our regulations will be up for public comment through the registrar. Then this spring, we are looking to do a pilot with a small number of businesses here in Delaware, just absolutely triple check, make sure everything is ready to go. And then we're looking forward to a full launch in the second half of 24. And so the second part of the year. And then the other aspect of the timeline to be aware of, for those businesses, remember I was talking about businesses that are required to facilitate Delaware EARNS, there will be a registration deadline. We anticipate that will be in the 4th quarter of this year. And I want to talk a little bit about how we'll be notifying employers in Delaware. And this is forthcoming, but employers will receive letters or emails just letting them know that they should either register for the program, register to participate in Delaware EARNS, or simply certify that they're exempt. For example, you have a 401k or you have a simple IRA. Just so you either register or you certify that you're exempt. This is once the website is up. The website will be earnsdelaware.com. It's not live yet because we're not ready to register folks. But when the time comes, and obviously there'll be a lot more communication about this, you want to go ahead and, like I say, either register or certify that you're exempt. If you are required to facilitate Delaware Earns, and you register, and then you simply upload, or the person that does payroll for you just uploads the employee information, and then the program administrator kind of enrolls the employees in the program. The contributions start automatically, and then in terms of the only other responsibility for the employer is just make sure that that list of employees stays up to date. So if obviously if people are dropping out, or if you're adding employees, make sure they get added. And if you are an employer, you probably have some thoughts about, well, what are my other responsibilities? Because typically when you offer a 401k, some of the burden falls on you in terms of educating people about the investments and what types of accounts and what the costs are, and can even get involved with managing loans from 401ks. People want to take a loan out from their 401k. None of that exists with Delaware Earns. The education will be handled by Vestwell, our program administrator, by the state treasurer's office. As you know, the treasurer's office has deep experience in managing plans, the 457 plan for the state workers, the 403B plan, our Great 529 plan, the ABLE plan, which is also a fantastic plan. So we have experience. We'll take care of the education. You should also know that in keeping with the idea that there's no out-of-pocket cost for employers, there's no matching that you will do. I know that's common in retirement plans to match contributions. That is off the table with Delaware Earns. They do not have to match. And in terms of somebody wanting to take money out from their retirement account, they have an emergency, they need to get access to the money. You don't have to get involved with that. And you shouldn't get involved with that at all. It's the employer. That would be done with the program administrator directly. And because these are Roth IRAs, savers can withdraw their original contributions at any time, the original amount of money they put in at any time without taxes or penalties. So the individuals have easy access to them. And I did touch on much of this. This is just reiterating what I want to, as clearly as I can, articulate what employers can expect. But there's a key point here that I don't think I've mentioned that's really important. And that is with Delaware Earns, unlike other retirement plans, if you're an employer, you have no plan sponsor liability for this. And I realize that sounds very technical and jargony, but what that means is if you offer a 401k, which again is a great thing to do, and 401ks offer a lot of wonderful benefits, you as the employer are the sponsor of that, and therefore do have certain liability to ensure that the investments are reasonable, that the fees are reasonable. That is not the situation with Delaware Earns. This is facilitated by the state, overseen by the treasurer's office and a special board. We have selected the investments and we have set the fees for participants. So that also is not in play for the employers, and that's a significant thing. And to protect you, as if you're an employer, to protect you from any kind of liability, that's one of the reasons why we say you can't match the contributions, because if you started matching the contributions, then it becomes a little bit murky. Are you actually the sponsor of the plan? So that's why we say no, much as we would like to have matching contributions, that's why we can't do the matching. I want to take a moment now, as I mentioned, sort of talking about this from both the employer and the employee, the saver side of it. In terms of the employees, once their information has been uploaded by the employer and then they get enrolled by the program administrator, they will receive communications, emails, letting them know that this is going to kick in, that there will be automatic deductions. And, again, we hope if they're in a position to do it, it's a great idea to do it because it's going to set them up for success in the future. But if they're just not in a position to do it, it's very easy for them to opt out. And they do have a 30-day window. That's why I wanted to bring up this illustration here. They do have a 30-day window, the employees do, before anything happens. So they receive the notification, but then there's 30-day period in which they can opt out. After that 30-day period, if they haven't taken any action, 5% of their gross pay gets deducted and gets put into their Roth IRA. They can certainly opt out after that too. It's not as if they've missed the window to opt out. They can opt out at any time, but there is a 30-day window before anything even happens. So that's important to be there as well. And I've highlighted a lot of the benefits that we see for employers in Delaware EARNS, but as I mentioned at the beginning too, this is a program that can really significantly improve the quality of life for the employees, for the workers. And you see some of the things here that are important to be aware of. One of the interesting things about Delaware EARNS is that the foundation of it is the Roth IRA, which you may be familiar with. Now, Roth IRAs can be wonderful vehicles to save for retirement. And that's because as you're making those contributions year after year, and hopefully doing that for decades, when you get to retirement age, when you're eligible to make qualified withdrawals from the Roth IRA, all of that growth that the person had in those accounts, all the compounding that went on for hopefully many decades, none of that is taxed. So you go into retirement with this big nest egg, you pull it out, you don't have to pay any taxes on that, provided it's a qualified withdrawal. And so that opens up the possibility that even somebody that never really made a lot of money, if they participated in Delaware EARNS steadily for long enough, they're looking at a really nice quality of life in retirement. So that's exciting. And I just wanted to elaborate on a point that we were touching on earlier, which is, again, from the employee standpoint, everything is voluntary. They don't have to participate if they don't want to, but it is designed to nudge them to do it. It's in their best interest. We're giving them nudges to do it. So there is kind of, if no action is taken, there's a good default path that will move them along. The Roth IRA gets open for them. 5% of their gross pay goes into the Roth IRA account every payroll period. That money gets invested in, and some of you may be familiar with these, they're called the target date retirement funds. They're just perfectly designed, very appropriate as a retirement investment. So you don't have to figure out, if you're the employee and you're sitting there like, what do I invest in? How much should I contribute? All of that can be taken care of for you. Now, if you do want to customize, that's great. You can set, if you want to say, hey, I want to save more than 5%, or I want to save less, that you can absolutely do that. Or, hey, I want to complement the target date fund with an international investment. You can do that as well. So there's a customizable path, but we're leading with the default path, again, because we find, and the research supports this, the more choices you have to make, the more people are going to just drop out and never get around to saving for retirement. And I focused a lot on employees that are working for a company that's required to facilitate Delaware Earns. And in that case, it's also driven through the payroll. Obviously, there's many folks here in Delaware that are working for themselves, gig workers, or maybe somebody's a solo practitioner. They can, and they're very much welcome to participate in Delaware Earns. There's a pathway, and I've actually tried it out on another state's website. There's a pathway to voluntarily sign up for this, just as a participant on your own. Link up your bank. It's very easy to do, so we would encourage that as well. So if you're wondering, hey, I don't fall into this category of companies that are covered by Delaware Earns, it'll be very easy, again, once the website launches, to sign yourself up as an employee. And just some recap from the standpoint of the employees. And I think I've covered all of this, but one thing to just mention, the company Vestwell that we're working with will have a client service, customer service center into which people can call. So they're not, if you're the employer, direct them there. You don't have to get into answering any questions. There's going to be customer support to do that. It's also going to be available in Spanish. So Spanish speaking savers, you want to talk to somebody, that will be available through Vestwell. And I think that's, we're pleased about that. And again, the website, not live yet. We're working on it. It's going to be live, obviously, well before we launch, but it will be earnsdelaware.com. And just some recap from the standpoint of the employers. This does affect, I think I mentioned it, but just to be clear, it does affect for-profit and non-profit. So non-profit employers that fall into that category. I mentioned 5 W-2 employees in business, 6 months, no qualified retirement plan. Those nonprofits as well will be required to facilitate Delaware Earns. In the future, certainly not immediately, but in the future, if there is an issue with compliance, there's potential for administrative penalties, but that's not going to be an immediate issue. We really see this as a win for our businesses and employers, and so we're very much approaching it as folks are going to want to eagerly sign up for this. And again, 2024 is that's why I really am so appreciative of this opportunity to speak to you today, because 2024 is really a big year for us. We're gonna open up and launch, and really looking forward to it. And speaking of things I'm looking forward to, really welcome your questions. I want to hear from you now, but in the future. And so I just want to mention a great email address for us, earns@delaware.gov, earns@delaware.gov. That comes straight to me, but it also comes to my colleagues here in the Treasurer's office. So if I'm out, it won't get missed. We want to hear your questions. We want to hear your concerns. So please, again, my name is Ted Griffith, Director of the program. Please, we want to hear from you. And if you're an employer and you're saying, hey, I'm kind of interested, and you don't have a retirement plan, you say, hey, I'm interested in getting one. It's not going to cost me anything. Please, I'm your guy. So please get in touch with me. But thank you again for listening. And Elise, I welcome questions.
Thank you. Yes, we do have a few questions that came through. You have kind of addressed them throughout the presentation, some of them, but just to make sure we're all clear. So what percentage are the employees automatically enrolled at?
Yeah, sure. So a great question. So the default amount that would come out of their paycheck, if no action is taken, is 5% of that gross check. So the equivalent of 5% of that gross check. But again, employees can alter that. They can increase it, they can lower it, they can opt out altogether, but the starting point is 5%.
And then this was also addressed, and it was very clear, I think, that you shared that employers, even if they wanted to make a matching contribution, cannot.
That is correct, yes. And that's just an unfortunate legality of that. Obviously, we would welcome that. Or I think the ideal would be to have it optional, that employers that were in a position to do it would be able to do it, but we can't for legality reasons, legal reasons, we can't do it. If you really want to do that, which is great, and again, our ultimate goal is just to support folks here in Delaware saving for retirement. If you really feel like, hey, I'm in a position to match, I want to match, for my folks, the 401k is a great route to do that, or one of the other plans that they're built on.
Another question came in. So a typical Roth IRA has a 5-year holding period requirement before allowing penalty-free withdrawals. In this case, or is this the case for the EARNS account?
So these are standard Roth IRAs. So all of the rules that apply to Roth IRAs apply to these. And so I really appreciate the question because it can help clarify things. I had mentioned that employees will have easy access to their funds. And what I mean by that, it's in a limited way. So if I make $1,000 contribution to a Roth IRA and it grows over time to $2,000, and my car breaks down and I have nowhere else to get the money, I can take out, regardless of how long the account has been open. It could be open just a month or whatever. I can take out that original contribution to $1,000 because it was an after-tax contribution, the original $1,000, without any type of penalty or tax. There's no penalty or tax on that. But the questioner is right. If you try to pull out the earnings before, generally you have to be 59 and a half, unless some kind of exception applies, and there is doing conversions and things like that, there's a 5-year holding period. So that's very true, but that applies to any of the earnings growth. The original contributions, people might think of it as the principal, can be taken out at any time without any penalty.
Wonderful. We have a few more questions coming in, so we have quite a few more. So what will communication setup and interaction with payroll vendors look like?
That's a big focus that we're turning to. We're going to be reaching out to the payroll vendors. We know that that's really an important. I have the listing of the ones here in Delaware. That's going to be an important group that we're going to be reaching out to. I will say that the large payroll providers, such as ADP, for example, they are aware of us, but more broadly of these types of programs, because they exist in 8 other states. Many other states are planning to launch them. Your national providers are aware that these are on the radar and are accustomed to dealing with them. But for the smaller payroll providers, that's a very important audience that in the next several weeks we're going to really focus on connecting. Absolutely.
Can you go into a little bit more detail about what is the saver fee structure?
The cost for the savers that are participating in the program.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So again, from the employer standpoint, there's no cost. For employees, the participants, as is standard with the retirement plan, participants do pay fees. In our case, we've done everything we can to minimize them, but our legislation, our statute does envision this program becoming self-sustaining. So we do need to charge employees, the savers, the participants for saving. So, and it's 2 types of fees, one of which is an asset-based fee, which is very common in the industry. In other words, you have $5,000 invested in the account. On an annual basis, a very small percentage of that is deducted as a fee. In our case, it's that asset-based fee is going to be a little bit more than 1/4%. The most participants would pay, it's called, not to pour it into tears, but a basis point is 1/100th of a percentage point. So it's 29, the most common fee paid would be 29 basis points. In other words, a little more than 1/4 of a percentage point annually in cost. So you'd be paying that. In addition, in order to try to reach self-sustainability with this program, we will have a per account fee that's annual. The annual cost of that is $26, and that's taken a quarter. So I hope so. So the fee is going to the account-based fee is everybody who has an account. So that's very easy to explain. It's $26 per year. The asset-based fee, that's a percentage of the assets under management. Again, an annual fee that I'm talking about. That's going to really vary depending on how much you have. So somebody's balance grows to a significant amount. Obviously, a quarter percentage point of that it can start to be a significant amount. But for those who just have a very small amount of money, it's going to be a very de minimis.
How will an employer report their savings/payroll amounts to the program?
Sure, absolutely. And that's going to be facilitated by Vestwell, our program administrator that has a lot of experience in doing this. That will all be done. It's all web-based. So when the time comes, employers will receive notification. They'll receive an identification code. They'll use that to log in. And then there's a straightforward process just to upload the employee census information, who the employees are, get that into the system, and then from there, the standard deduction would take place. And that's definitely something that we want to make sure is as smooth and hassle-free for the employer. So it will take a little bit of time initially to get that information uploaded. And then it will take a little bit of time to make sure that it stays updated. However, it's not going to be what we've seen in other states is it's not a big time consuming thing. And certainly, if you have someone doing payroll for you, a payroll provider, they can take care of that.
We have a lot more great questions, so thank you for your time. So are the funds going to be withheld from the paychecks or withdrawn from the employees' personal checking accounts?
From the paycheck, for folks that are at required employers and are participating that way, it's payroll. And that's really by design, because that's the way. And if you have a 401k, you know this is true. In some ways, the money's coming out before you ever see it, and that's the best way to do it, because then it's just getting in there and it's working for you before you ever worried it. That's why we want to do it through payroll.
Can the owners participate or only employees?
A fantastic question, and I really should have made that clear, because the answer is a resounding yes. And that's something, as I'm talking with small business owners, they'll acknowledge, like, hey, I've been really busy running the business. I mean, it's all consuming. I haven't saved anything for my retirement. So absolutely yes, and we would welcome that. As I mentioned with the Roth IRA, it's a standard Roth IRA, so all the rules apply to a Roth IRA. If your income is above certain levels, you're not eligible to contribute to a Roth IRA. What we have in that case is you can just do kind of the old-fashioned traditional tax-deductible IRA. So either way, a business owner absolutely would be able to participate in this, and we would welcome that. We see this as one of the benefits of that.
Does this apply to employees who are not Delaware residents?
Yes, if they're working in Delaware, if they're working in Delaware and you're sending them a W-2, then yes.
Any issue with the remote workforce? working for a Delaware company, but maybe working outside of the state?
Yeah, and we're really gonna do this kind of on the honor system. I mean, if somebody is not working in Delaware for you, but is on your rolls, then you don't have to count them. And we're not going to be, we're not looking to become Big Brother and seek all sorts of documentations. We at least, initially, maybe naively, we're starting very much on a good faith basis. We don't want to create a big apparatus where people have to upload tons of stuff. So if the person is not working in Delaware, then they don't have to count towards that 5.
This is gonna be a big one. When you say employees, do you mean full-time? Or part-time? Or full and part-time?
The latter. So if you're sending them a W-2, if they are a W-2 employee, they're covered. So even if it's a few hours, they would be in the program.
Then I'm just adding on to this question.
Yeah.
So say you have benefit package for your full-time employees. Could this be an add-on if you want to give part-time employees an option? If say they're not covered within your full benefits package, can you have some employees on this program and others on a 401k?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And we've also gotten the question, at least kind of turning it around a little bit, of, hey, I have a 401k, exactly as you're saying, and 401ks can be, by design, they could, it's perfectly fair and legit, exclude the part-time workers. Hey, do I have to cover those people that fall outside of my 401k? Do I have to cover them under earned? The answer to that is no. You have if the plan meets it, this doesn't apply to sort of non-qualified plans, but if it's a qualified plan that meets all the criteria for a 401k and you have it as an employer, you don't have to call people that legitimately fall outside of it. You don't have to get them into earned.
But you could.
But if you're thinking, hey, it would be nice. I mean, I think everybody agrees somebody that's working should, in an ideal world, have a chance to save for retirement. If you're thinking, hey, it would be nice for these folks to be able to save for retirement, you point them to us. You don't want to get involved. We live in a litigious era. Don't want to get involved with giving people financial and investment advice, but there absolutely is a pathway for individuals who don't work for a required employer to go and sign up. And I was kind of curious myself. I did it on another state's website. It's already up and running. It took me, the volunteer path. It just was like a few minutes. It really was nice and smooth. So you don't want to, again, you don't want to sort of you don't want to be in a position where you're advocating. I'm just, thinking about the employer, from the standpoint of the employer, but you can certainly make folks aware that this exists, and they're free to sign up for it, and we welcome it, and they can reach out to us, and they can reach out to the call center for information. We just don't want to bog down employers of like, hey, you guys said that this isn't, our responsibility to explain it to people, and then start making them have to explain.
I'm gonna actually jump down a question because I think someone did ask along this same vein of question. Does the 5 W-2 employees requirement apply to seasonal employees / part-time employees? So I think we covered that in that answer. I just wanted to make sure that when it comes to seasonal work.
Yeah, so it is designed to be very broad, to sweep in a lot of employees, more so than other retirement plans. However, remember, it's completely voluntary for the employees. So like if they're just going to be working there for a brief period of time, and it's like, oh, why should they go through all this? They don't have to. They can opt out. I should say too, and our regulations are going to be posted on Friday. you don't have to sign anybody up until they've worked for you for 120 days. So, and again, we're really on the kind of honor system here. They're not going to be like checking, at least the way I want to do it, not checking back of like they came back next year, you know. So if they don't work for you more than 120 days, then you don't have. So,
What happens when an employee leaves your company?
yeah, and that's one of the nice, from the standpoint of the employer, that's one of the nice things. Obviously, you stop making any contributions to that account, but it stays with them. You know, it's a Roth IRA that they will go through their entire working lives, but they deal with us, right? So if they want to keep it there and make, this is talking about the employees, they want to keep it there and make contributions, they can keep doing that. Or if they want to roll that Roth IRA to somewhere else or into a 401k, they can do that. But the employer is just out of it, you know, doesn't have to worry. It's very.
Will it be pre-tax or post-tax withdrawal? I think you kind of covered this, but I just want to make sure it's clear.
Yes, yeah, and I should make it clear because I know it can get, with all the alphabet soup stuff, it can get unclear. These are after-tax contributions. Any contribution into a Roth IRA has to be post-tax.
And this goes back to the question you answered a little bit before about the fees. I'm just going to, so to clarify the asset-based fee that will be charged, for example, what percentage would be charged on, say, $10,000?
Let me, it's going to be dangerous. I'm going to try to do the calculation here
Sure.
on the fly. Don't hold me to this. So I get on $10,000, I get $29 and because it's 0.29%. So we go back to.
Hopefully that makes it clear for everyone. And then we're at our last question. And I just want to double check there's no other questions I'm missing. And this one is perfect because I think it goes back to making sure everyone's really clear about the rollout and when employers can make you know, remarks and all this stuff. So will the program be open for participation before January 1, 2025?
Absolutely, and appreciate the question, and perhaps a little bit of background there. Our statute, the statute that created Delaware EARNS, references that the program should be up and running on January 1, 2025. Obviously, in order to meet that statutory deadline, we have to get up and running before that. We couldn't open it on New Year's Day, or it'd be unpleasant. So that's why there's going to be a registration deadline Q4 of 24. So that, you know, we want people to get registered so that it is in fact up and running on January 1, 2025. Businesses will be able to come into it. And again, I think there's a lot of wins here for them. We'll be able to come into it earlier than that deadline if they like. We're hoping maybe even this summer. For a full rollout, but the actual deadline is will be late 24, just ahead of the January to make sure we meet that January. So it is consistent with that time.
To close out today's presentation, I think it's really great if we could just go through kind of that rollout slide that you had where you shared that as of March 1st, you guys are going to be opening up. Are you looking for, you kind of had like a select amount of businesses. Do you have those already ready? Are you looking for businesses who are interested?
Sure. We welcome participation in this program at any time. And if you are interested in participating in our pilot, please write to this earns@delaware.gov. And happy to talk to you about it. Again, obviously there's no charge to you to participate as the employer. And you really have a great chance to shape the program. We're doing it because we want your feedback. So yes, thank you for mentioning that, Elise. We would love people, employers, nonprofit or for-profit, to participate. Obviously, we're looking for those that have five or more W-2 employees. That's kind of our target. But please reach out.
Wonderful. I did throw that email into the comments. We will be sharing this recording after today's webinar, so you guys can make sure that you can share this widely with your networks and your employees about what's coming up in 2020, late 2024. So thank you so much, Ted, for joining us today and sharing about Delaware EARNS. For anyone on the call, make sure that you email earns@delaware.gov to ask Ted specific questions, or if you're interested in participating in this pilot program. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Elise, thank you so much again. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. Thank you.